Ladies and gentlemen, it is the bottom tier.
The very tippity top of the worstity worst, Greg and Matt.
Yes,
my friends.
Thanks for the introduction. That was nice.
You're very welcome. I figured we'd shake it up a little bit.
Yeah, that was so cool.
Get kind of spicy.
One person say our names. Love it.
Right? It says that whole like self-introductory thing. I feel kind of awkward about that today. I don't know why. What's up?
I don't know. I liked it. It was cool.
Cool.
It's cool. If we fuse our name together, it'd be great.
You know what? It would be.
Yeah.
Meg.
Ooh, you know what? We'd be great.
Oh.
And that is the end of the episode. So
thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you. Welcome to Bottom Tier, a Flesh and Blood podcast where we talk about everything involving flesh and blood, from news to how to get better, but most of all, just to be able to create a community of awesomeness involving this amazing trading card game.
We're really into it. We hope you're really into it too. And if you're not really into it, we hope that you join us on this journey as we fall deeper and deeper down this particular little rabbit hole. Friends, it is so great to be back here with you today. Matt, it's great to be back here with you as well.
Thank you so much. It is a great day. It's actually a little bit rainy, which is nice.
It is. You know, living down here in desert land, it's always good when we get a little bit of water.
It's been a great year for water.
It really has. It's been really rainy this year. Guys, leave us a comment or shoot us a message or something with your annual rainfall this year.
Yeah, how many inches?
We're getting like 1.5 today.
It's really cool, and it's really, I think it's a better day to do a podcast essentially because of that, you know?
Right. It just feels like a cozy day.
Like the
kind of day you want to sit around like a fire and like read a book or just talk about things that are interesting to you. And conveniently, those two things are the things that we do here on this podcast.
Sit around a fire.
Yeah. And talk about things we care about.
Exactly.
There's a roaring blaze here in front of us right now.
Yep.
It's burning my face. It's so close and so hot.
I mean, we don't have eyebrows anymore. It's fantastic. It's so good.
Who needs face hair? Who needs that?
But speaking of hot things,
what a transition.
We got some news.
We do.
We got the fire that LSS has dropped on us.
Or perhaps the lack of fire.
The lack of fire could work too, I guess. Is
both is applicable right now.
I guess.
So really, the biggest thing, like the thing right up top, I think that we have to address is the brand new hero.
Yes, the Armory kit dropped for next month's Armory, and with that, the winning card you win at your Armories is going to be a brand new hero. We talked about him a little bit last time.
We did.
And it's official on what it actually is. Yoji, the Royal Protector, is the new hero.
Big boy himself.
And what is he?
He's a guardian. Just a plain Jane guardian.
Yep, no draconic, which is very surprising to a lot of people. Just a guardian.
Just boom.
But I think what's more interesting is this is kind of a hint that LSS is definitely wanting Ultimate Pit Fight to take off, in my opinion, because his ability is once per turn instant, pay 3 resources. The next time another target hero would be dealt damage this turn. Instead, that damage is dealt to Yoji and prevent 1 of that damage. This hero has 4 intellect and 22 health.
The 22 health is super nifty, but that hero ability, absolutely useless outside of UPF and potentially the PvE mode, which, they've been talking about a little bit more.
Yeah.
We have a hero who's actually like geared towards that sort of play style. I feel like in the next few months, we're going to start to actually get some solid news about that. And honestly, that's the thing that excites me most about the Yoji reveal. I'm not like plussed about the hero like at all, other than the art. The art's phenomenal like it always is.
Right.
But I don't care.
I mean, also the other thing with it, though, however, is Yoji does have 22 health, so you do kind of get a boost on the Guardian.
A little bit more, though, which is nice for the
cool.
Guardian.
Which is cool, but it makes sense for the ability, too. So, like, I do like that for the UPF of being able to be like, you're attacking that person, well, I'm going to do this. Except it costs a lot from your hand.
Well, and it does cost a lot, but Guardian is one of those classes that really, like, if they run a lot of blues.
Right.
So pitching a 3 cost is not that big a deal. The thing about this particular hero is that the way that the ability is structured for UPF, you're going to end up running a lot of things that will restore your life.
For sure.
You're 100% going to get what's the one? Sigil of
Solace.
Thank you. Sigil of Solace, healing bombs. Things like Oasis Respite's going to get in there.
Respite. I don't know.
How you pronounce it.
Whatever it is supposed to be.
You know what I mean? I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's going to be geared a lot towards that. And then I think gearing towards cards that have similar effects like Scar for a Scar.
Yeah.
So you can really reliably trigger that less health than effect. And get, a go again or, some other sort of like on hit effect or something like that. So I think once he gets out there a little bit, we start playing with some decks and stuff, he'll be a really interesting like UPF sort of hero. But I think honestly outside of that, there's going to be like no adoption whatsoever.
It's just going to be a fun, and I don't know if it's just going to be a promo card either. Like that's the other thing. Is this just a promo and he's going to actually still be in the set? Or maybe it's just going to be a promo and just an offset thing? Because a lot of their promos have just been geared towards UPF.
It would be really wild if it was just a promo and it got like, because it kind of had like not as like a full like super like here's the new hero kids sort of reveal or anything like the Emperor did. But I feel like he's been played up a little bit more than some of the other like promo heroes like your Yoriks or the Adjudicator one or like Rudy or whatever.
Right. So I'm curious on what it's going to be if he's going to be the hero in the set, but it looks cool. I'm stoked. Like I'll want to win it. The cold foil probably is what it's going to be. It's interesting because it does have the draconic like feel to molten it on the sides of it, which is kind of funny. But that it just didn't have the draconic typing in it. So we could get more information on it. Who knows?
The Emperor took all of the talents and the keywords and just kind of shoved them into his own thing.
It's like, you're a guardian. So there you go. But the other thing that dropped in that armory kit was a little bit better.
A little more exciting.
Really, really spicy and great for wizards.
Oh, man. Phenomenal for wizards.
The Blessing of Aether card. It costs 1. It's an aura. And when you play a card, it either adds +3 arcane to the next card you play that does arcane damage, or 2, or 1, depending if it's red, yellow, or blue.
Which is absolutely flipping wild, dude.
That's huge.
Pitch for 3 arcane damage. Like that's good.
As an aura,
yeah.
So the actual keywords here is at the start of your turn. Oh, you destroy it. So it's only a one-time use, but it does
pops. Yeah, but then if you come in with something like Remembrance or something like that will let you like restore it, or if you're running something that'll let you like recycle it back into your deck so you can draw it again, you could consistently push like a lot of additional damage.
Yeah, it makes wizards a little bit more scary, and I'm excited to see like. This looks like it's going to be a common or rare card in the new set. So it could be in common or a lot more, which makes those wizards even more viable, which is
pretty flippin' terrifying. Because when you stop and you think about it, if you just as a thought experiment, you're playing Icelander, right?
Yeah.
You have your new aura down. It pops. You come in with like one of the ones that does like 4 or 5 arcane damage.
Yeah.
You take a 5 arcane damage spell. You add 3 to it. It doesn't matter if they're running like complete null rune plus like an arcane lantern or something. Damage is going through
100%.
Having something like that where you can guarantee that the damage goes through without the use of an effect like Dominate or something like that. Like that's insane.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is like you're right. Like it could make someone put a full suite of things. Like the perfect example is Brute could do a full suite. It's running Mandible Claws. A lot of people do run that arcane lantern there. So even if they have 5 AB, you're taking away at least 2 cards from their hand, right? A blue and a yellow to be able to pay for the pitch to block that arcane. And if they only have a suite of 3, you're at least getting rid of 1 card, but also dealing 5 damage, which is insane. Like that's a lot of damage because like you could typically block for more than that. So you have to make sure you're just being really, really careful near the end game because that's when 100%. You're going to lose.
Especially in a format like Commoner or Blitz where you have the lower hit points and everything.
Yep.
Like that could quickly get OP.
And I think a keyword on it was the next thing that does arcane damage. So luckily it's not, we don't have Rosetta Thorn for that build, but I mean that could be like 2 for 5.
Surprise.
But also like that definitely feels like it's going to be something for the Emperor. And the Emperor could have a weapon that does arcane damage too, which could be equally as scary. So,
if we stick with the Icelander example, if they pull it off with a Waning Moon or something like that, okay, surprise, 5 arcane damage and it's an instant speed, so I get to go again.
Absolutely, yeah. They play a Cold Snap to freeze the arsenal, and they're like, oh look, 6 damage, and you're like, okay,
cool. Good game.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm excited. I think that's really huge for Wizards. We'll be able to see them be used a lot more. So it gets me really excited for the set, but also kind of nervous because the one thing that I've heard from the community, it's not just my personal opinion, but from a hero community, is like Everfest was fun, but Everfest didn't really bring a lot like Crucible War did. It brought like, oh, this is good for UPF, or this is whatever. It didn't bring the like zest for it, besides Runeblades. They always help Runeblades out.
Thank you.
But they did bring like the good stuff for the community to be like really stoked on things.
Everfest had a couple of good things in it, and like especially with a couple of the reprints, it really helped sort of get those into more into circulation. But definitely a little bit more underwhelming, especially compared to a couple of the other sets. Hopefully they sort of course correct here a little bit. Although really frankly, if we mostly just get like a filler set, I'm not going to be heartbroken about that.
No,
things are in a really good place right now as far as actually playing the game. And whenever a new set drops, it inevitably changes things up. And I kind of feel like if they go too far in any particular direction right now, it's just going to throw things way off.
Yeah.
So I kind of hope that they've taken some of that into account, and they're being a little conservative's not really the right word, but a little more cautious, I guess. When dropping stuff, because Everfest on the whole kind of not bad but not great, but Everfest also gave us Starvo, which was the meta defining, like warping, obliterating hero
that is true,
for a while. So,
and I do suspect that we will have that. We've talked about it multiple times in the show with Kano, right? We will have an adult Kano that has something, and if not, then cool. Like we're wrong. Like the community's wrong, right? But based off of that, like I do think we'll probably have a different Kano that has that draconic keyword or something like that, and that'd be interesting. Be really cool.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And hopefully it just stays at like an interesting point and like, this is a neat hero. Let's play with some concepts, and not everybody has to run this or you lose sort of situation.
Right.
Because
I do hope it's viable. Like I do hope to see it in the meta.
Yeah. 100%.
But because but I mean I don't want it to be like, it will be the sweeping force probably for like the first month, as we saw Phi and happen,
as people just kind of learn how to play against it and how to play it most effectively, kind of the evolution of things. But then it's we're at a point now, a couple months after the drop, that it's really smooth now. It's calmed down. Yep. And we're at a point where you can basically run whatever you want to, and you're doing pretty okay.
That is correct.
I really hope that like Hyper God Kano doesn't show up and is just like, never mind everybody, here's 47 damage on turn 1.
And you know what? Yeah, I'd be upset about that.
Right.
I mean, it will do a lot of damage just with that new card alone. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what it's going to do.
I am too. It's going to be, whichever way it goes, it's going to be an interesting time.
Yeah. Besides that, for the news, like that was really cool news for the community to be able to see. They also announced the releasing schedule for like revealing spoilers, the spoiler schedule.
Yes,
so
they
it
did.
Does start October 31st. I think it's then.
Yeah, it does. And guys,
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Very, very exciting news we have in the bottom tier for spoiler season. We didn't get any.
I was like, did you get it?
No,
we
sadly
we aren't. But hey, you know what? Like and subscribe. Maybe soon we will be able to, or not. I don't really mind either way. We like being spoiled.
I'm not heartbroken by it because now I get to enjoy everything. But at the same time, it'd be kind of nice to have a little bit of that swag.
Hey, it'll be cool to do that one day, and we will be able to do it in a really cool way. But hey, one day we'll get there.
Goals for the future.
But yeah, so that's really cool. We get to see the spoiler season kind of pop up. Nationals is still going on, which is really cool. Phi won a Nationals, and the deck list was very interesting. It was actually like 3 Phis and 1 top 8.
Interesting.
In an Oldhim meta area. So Phi, it's interesting because a lot of people were saying Phi is not going to be good because of Oldhim, but they proved that they can actually just still pump out more damage enough to where Oldhim has to be like, I either pay to use this defense reaction, have no cards, or whatever. So Phi is still viable in the meta, which is really cool. But the deck list was super interesting, and so I thought that was really neat. That was kind of the standout national story that kind of happened this last week, was like people were like, whoa, this hero still did something.
Right? Like pretty much everything's gone mostly the way I think people kind of foresaw it going in the national season this time. But every once in a while you get, Reinar wins in Malaysia, or Phi takes it then. Like there are still, occasional spots where it's like, wow, really? Yeah.
So I think you're right. Like you can right now is the time to be able to pick up any hero that you vibe with and be able to have success with it.
100%.
And be able to pull off wins and do everything like that.
And that, man, LSS has done a very rare thing. They have nailed a meta. Like the meta is beautifully balanced right now. Pretty much everybody is viable. There are several builds for each hero that you can get by with. Like it's such a fertile, beautiful time in this game. I am absolutely like thrilled, and I'm also vaguely terrified for the new set to drop and potentially upend that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, but I think what's cool is it kind of shows that plan that they had with the living legend points actually be like a good thing.
It is actually doing what it's supposed to do.
I think what we suffered from in the beginning, or not suffered, I think suffer is a really strong word. What we were going through in the beginning, or what everyone was kind of feeling with the points and like learning about living legend and all that stuff, is just there was the vision and they knew what was going on, and it just wasn't able to be applicable until after the like whole global shutdown was now kind of reversed and we're kind of opening things back up again. We're now able to see the effects of the living legend to actually be like, this actually keeps things really, really balanced, so it doesn't last very long. And so even if we accidentally make something broken, you're only going to have it for a season.
Exactly. The game will balance itself back out.
Yeah. So that gives them a little bit of work to be like, we made something really, really fun that we like. And it's like, ooh, the community decided that it was broken that we did, you know? So I like it because we get to experience these different phases and always pretty much have a working meta at a particular point, and it doesn't really feel like it's going to change too much after that. So,
which is super exciting.
Good job, LSS.
Really, truly, high fives all around.
But other than that,
whatever the New Zealand equivalent of that is.
Yes, sheep 5. I don't know.
The Fosters on the beach.
But other than that, I don't think there was anything else that of note that came out this week. Did you hear anything else?
No, not really. Other than the normal, this is really stupid kind of comments from a lot of people. But whenever something comes out, whenever things are happening, there are going to be people who are all starry-eyed about it. There are going to be people who are immediately like, this is the worst thing on the planet.
Yeah.
So just kind of ignore the extremes, right?
Right.
But as far as like stuff, I don't really have anything else as far as news.
There you go. Well, then let's move on to our next recurring segment, Lessons Learned.
Lessons learned, everybody.
Lessons Learned. Our segment where we talk about what we have learned in the game of Flesh and Blood this past week, as it kind of says. But Greg, what have you learned this last week playing Flesh and Blood?
Oh man, this last week playing Flesh and Blood, I've learned just really like quite a lot, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's been a really interesting week. We've done a couple of things online, done a couple of things in person. The biggest thing for me, honestly, just gets down to one of the most basic aspects of the game, and that's learn how to block, kid.
That's a very good aspect.
Right? When we first got into this, we lost a lot.
Yeah.
We started to win a little bit, started picking it up a little bit, getting a couple W's here and there. I'm recently going through this period where I've stopped getting the W's. I've kind of hit this like sort of doldrum, and I think that a lot of it for me comes back to when I'm deck building, I'm not taking blocking into account correctly.
That was gross.
That was a noise.
Sorry, my neck just had to go. Rah.
That was terrifying.
Anyway, as you get to hear that,
I feel like I'm in here with a lion now. Am I going to get eaten? What's happening? Anyway, when I've been deck building, I've mostly been focused on, resource curve and can I threaten damage with this? But I haven't focused so much on preventing damage. And I'm getting to that point now where, I'm getting people down to, like 3s to 2s or 1s and 1s and something like that. And then I'm just not quite able to stop them from killing me before I can kill them. So I'm at this point where I have to kind of step back and take a look at my approach to things and sort of rework it a little bit to take some of the aspects of things that I've sort of left by the wayside back into account and really start to leverage those. So that's my lesson, is learn how to block.
I love it. I actually really relate to that because I built a deck and then was playing with it a little bit, and I was like, "Oh crap, everything's 2-block in here," and
oh yeah, that
made me super sad because I was like, I don't have no cards that can really block. But I made sure I did put some 3 blocks in there just for the blocks or the resource. But yeah, blocking is once you learn blocking is when you really start getting the most wins, I would say.
Once you can integrate, blocking into a deck, other than like a control deck, like I play Oldhim CC.
Yeah.
And Oldhim, the deck is generally like tanky. My deck is particularly tanky, so it's really focused on blocking. So that's what I focused on when I built it. I didn't really focus on, doing damage and stuff like that, which is its own problem. But in that sort of situation, like, I'm good. I'm covered. So if you like focus on it, you're probably going to be okay. The problem comes when you're looking at a class like a ninja or like a brute, or even like a rune blade.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to be able to prevent some damage so that you can take a second to sort of start your engine up and then start to get the good plays to really push the damage, especially if you're playing like an aggro or a mid-tempo deck.
Absolutely. 100%. I agree with you. That's a great lesson learned. I like that, Greg.
Bottom to your top tip.
There you go. There you go.
All right. What do you got for us today, Matt?
I think my lesson learned is kind of watching, how do I word this without sounding like the other person the other person is a bad player. No, it's I guess the lesson could just be summed up as you're playing with someone else. Like, you control what you can control, and you can't control what they do, right? So what's interesting is, like, I made a deck. Not a good deck. Like, I know it's not a good deck. It has generic cards.
Kind of a janky main deck.
It was Caviting, yeah. I made
Merchant.
I made Merchant, right? Played yesterday with it, and I was like, I'm coming to this event, I'm going to lose. That was my mindset.
100%.
Like, I'm here to lose. I came here to lose. I'm not going to get any wins. Played the first match and went exactly as I thought it was going to be versus a warrior. They did like, okay, I have 4 and you have 0, right? I was like, crazy. Okay. Go to my next match. And the player across from me, I'm like, cool, that they're gonna make me go first. I'm like, awesome, they're gonna block out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attack and then just arsenal something so I can set up, because Caviting was really, really well if I can set up for round 2 and maybe be able to do something. Right. So I attack and I push like 10 damage, just like generic 10 damage, and then I was gonna arsenal, and they're like, I take it all. I was like, what? Excuse me? It's round 1. Are you sure? I even said, it's round 1. Are you sure? Yeah, I really
get your hand back at the end of this turn. You know that, right?
So it's like, what? Okay, cool. And then they had a really big turn, and so I was like, cool, I already set up turn number 2 because I gave you the cards I didn't care about. I set up turn 2 with this other card, and then it was like, cool, I'll take 14 damage, and then I'm going to deal you 17 damage, and then they're like, they couldn't gain momentum back. And so it's just like, I shouldn't win this game. And it doesn't make me feel bad. It's just like, when you play this game, I think the lesson is, like, you're going to be able to win even if you don't have the most optimized deck, because you're versing someone else and what they're thinking is going to be different, right?
100%.
Right. So you just, as long as you have a coherent strategy in your mind of what you're going to do, because I did have a strategy of like, all right, if I want to go first with this hero so that I can always set up my next turn so I can be able to do that. And like, I knew the cards, I knew the strategy of what I wanted to do to be able to get the win, and they don't know that. And so they're going to go with the impression of like, I could take this because they're not going to have the strongest cards. Again, what happened the other day was like, cool, I'm going to block with 3 cards in my hand, and I'm just going to go straight to the arsenal on my turn. It was like turn 2, and it was like, it's a really weird thing to do. But I blocked and used my equipment and blocked like 8 damage, and then I just arsenaled a trade-in, which is the 3 go again if you play from arsenal, and then if you get rid of a card, you could draw a different card. Did that, was able to, like, I had a Ravenous Rabble, another trade-in, a critical strike, and a blue pitch, and then the trade-in here. So I played trade-in, took out the trade-in, got another Ravenous Rabble, played Ravenous Rabble, flipped over my top card, it was a red Razor Reflex. So it's 4 go again. So when I played the other Ravenous Rabble, it was another 4 go again, right? And so it was 3, 4, 4, critical strike, Snapdragons, because I had a blue pitch, and then I Talishard. So I ended up pushing 20 damage in one turn with a Merchant, all because like I knew what my strategy was, and it was worth not trying to do anything on a turn, just arsenal and then pass.
You had a plan, you executed the plan.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like, I think just go, like, know your deck enough to come up with your own strategy, and don't worry about so much, like, you can only control what you're going to do, and you're going to let them do their thing. And if you're like, that's worth it, you just do the strat. I don't know.
100%.
That's a hard lesson to kind of.
It really is, but it's an important one. When you get right down to it, any game like this has a couple of different aspects to it, where random chance or accident sort of comes in. Humans aren't perfect. We misplay. We do a calculation incorrectly, something like that. You draw up your hand. It's a terrible hand. It's not at all what you need. It's not, working well. Even, before that, when you're building the deck, if you have stuff that you think is going to work, but then it doesn't synergize or harmonize the way that you think it's going to, then you just have a bunch of disparate pieces kind of cobbled together that you're vaguely swinging at the other person with. So there's a lot of different aspects other than just the literal, like, here is card effect, go, block card. Sort of, back and forth mechanical thing. So that's a really phenomenal lesson, is just to keep in mind that, even if the other person like plays perfectly, like in the terms that they can, like the context that they can, they still may not actually be playing perfectly.
Yeah, 100%.
And as long as you come in with the plan, you execute on the plan, then you're doing okay.
Yeah. That's just the lesson, is like, just have that strat.
Just have the strat, guys.
There you go. That's the lesson learned.
Fabulous.
Look at that. Got our 2 segments out of the way, but hey, we have a new segment here.
We do, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a new segment, but
well, it's the first time we're doing it here on air, guys. I don't know if anybody else knows this, but we're semi-active on a variety of other sort of websites, some social medias and stuff like that.
We have a Twitter.
We have a Twitter.
We got a Reddit.
We're on Reddit.
We got a YouTube channel.
We got YouTube. The big 3.
Yeah, and we got our personal Instagram accounts that sometimes we talk about this.
Every once in a while, we post something on there. Matt, we really need to get like a bottom tier Instagram.
We probably should.
We really should. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, a few days ago, we received a message on our Reddit from Ben in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Ben, shout outs to you, my guy. We're so sorry. I didn't actually tell him that we were going to be doing this part, but I figured
you can message him later.
He's going to enjoy it. So Ben sent us this really phenomenal message. I'm going to read just a couple of chunks out of it really quick, because he asks a couple of really good questions that I felt like we should try to tackle here on today's episode. So reading from the message, I took your advice and speed dated by making 4 commoner decks for less than $35, including shipping. Oldham and Kasai were okay, but I felt like I was missing something due to the lack of shields or blood on her hands. Prism was fun, but I need to spend more time with her. I spent 1 game with Kayo and fell in love. I feel like he really shines in commoner. My question that I would love to hear your opinion on is how heroes feel different from format to format. For example, did I really get an Oldham experience without his shields? And is commoner Kasai just Dory with 2 swords? It didn't feel much different. My friend's been helping me a lot getting into the game and wants me to make a Blitz deck, but I don't know who I should upgrade. I'm currently thinking KO, but I'm not sure if that's because I click with him or because he really shines in commoner. Thanks for a great pod. Looking forward to our next episode. Ben from Pittsburgh. Ben, thank you so much for writing, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so. That's amazing,
especially
and you did
for
make our
coming
day
with like good questions and stuff.
Yeah.
Like seriously, I sent this to Matt like as soon as I saw it drop in the Reddit, and it was like, oh my god, we got fan mail.
Yeah, it was just a great question. Yeah,
stuff.
It was great. I really liked it.
It was pretty phenomenal. So Matt, there's a couple of things in here I'd like to go over. Let's start out with the big question. How do heroes feel different from format to format? So let's take one of his examples. Let's take Kasai. Let's talk about Kasai. We both know Kasai pretty well. You've run Kasai. I've played you against Kasai a lot. Very different hero, Blitz to commoner. Especially, Ben calls out not having blood on her hands in the commoner format because, of course, it is a higher rarity card. And Kasai's whole thing being around, multiple sword hits per turn, generate the copper, and then do something with the copper. So really, like in that sort of situation, how integral do you think that some of these higher rarity cards, using a Blitz to commoner sort of example, are to the hero? And then even taking that a step further with a hero that you can play in, Blitz, commoner, and CC, like an Oldham or something.
Right.
Moving from, the smaller, sort of faster Blitz format up into CC. Like, do you think that the heroes really like play differently, or do you think that they're basically the same, just a little bit different depending on what you have access to?
That's a great question. That's why I love it so much. Is I feel like it's yes and no on the question.
100%.
So Kasai is a great example. Kasai, you can actually get the feel of Kasai in Commoner 100%. But also, like, the feel of Kasai Unleashed and Blitz does feel a little bit different. And the main thing that it feels that way is the copper pieces and the cards you get access to with those copper pieces. So in Commoner, the thing that makes Kasai so good in Commoner and different in Commoner is just Kasai's ability of being able to swing and attack once, and then you immediately have go again and can attack with your next Centauri Saber, most likely, for free. 100% for free. That's Kasai's base ability, and it's fantastic in Commoner. In fact, spoiler alert, should we spoil it?
Go for it.
Yeah, watch on our YouTube channel because you get to see the match. But the winner of the Commoner Cup that happened yesterday was a Kasai. And so it was Kasai versus Kasai. So Kasai is super valuable in Commoner, but it feels more like a typical warrior, the way it's built.
Absolutely. Like Ben kind of calls it out, like Kasai is very similar to Dory because you can't focus as much on creating the copper because you really don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, nothing to do with copper. But you're able to, the difference is you're able to then pay more for more expensive cards for just one attack, and you get the next attack for free is huge. That's what makes it so different from Dory, is Dory doesn't have guaranteed go again, and it's not free. And so Kasai is able to push that much more with that.
Dory really, like in this example, Dory really relies on reactions to get the go again, to push the Dawnblade damage over the block so that you can keep the plus counters and gain new plus counters. Whereas if you go with a Kasai, it's much less reliant on that sort of reaction heavy sort of deck strategy. You can play a lot more like direct attack cards. You can do a lot more things to sort of buff without having to worry about building in the go again. And all that sort of thing. So they operate sort of similarly, but it's kind of like, two different viewpoints on the same sort of subject.
Yeah.
They both, swing with sword, win game. But the way that they go about that changes up as it goes, which is what plays into, really in Commoner, especially as a format, some of the really interesting things that you can get up to with it.
Right. And so to answer the question again, though, is like, now let's take Kasai and put it in Blitz. You get access to Spoiler of War, which is huge, which it gives the weapon go again, produces more copper for blood on your hands, even cash in to be able to draw more cards.
Yep.
You're able to get that extra stuff to be able to spend that copper for those things. But your deck is rudimentarily the same. You're still going off the same concept of your second attack will be free. You do get to wear the Courage of Bladehold, which gives you free resource on your entire weapon for when you have the blood on your hands turn, and you're able to go ham on that. And so you do have access to a lot more things to have those big turns. And I think that's the one thing that's missing from Commoner is when you play a hero, you're just learning the fundamental hero effect. You can't pop off on your big hero turn. You don't get your hero specialization unless you're playing Ira. And so you just miss out on the extra nugget of those heroes. You're just having a rudimentary hero that has one certain effect and still can feel different from the other ones. You're just missing out on the specialization.
It's a matter of learning the fundamentals and getting a good foundation down and then building on top of that. So yes is the answer. Like each hero is definitely going to feel different in each format, especially a hero where it's sort of based around some of those high rarity cards. Like if we take an Oldham, for example, the only Guardian Shield that you can play in a Commoner format is the Rotten Buckler, which blocks for 1 and then it breaks. Not 100%, sort of the flow that you expect with Oldham, and it forces you to build a little bit more aggro in order to sort of counterbalance the lack of defense. Whereas when you get into Blitz or CD, you can pull like a Rampart or Ram's Head or something like that, and really just use it over and over and over and over and over again, and really leverage that defense and build a little bit more tanky and focus a little bit more on fatigue. But still, ultimately, it's a pretty similar sort of build. You still want to tank a little bit more than like the other Guardian, like Bravo or something. But you don't have the opportunity to do it quite as effectively as you would otherwise. So again, it's a matter of foundations. You can understand that, this hero is more of a blocky thing. The ability sort of lends itself to fatiguing the opponent or, blocking damage outright.
Right.
So it's a matter of, getting the fundamentals down and then leveraging it into something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you picked really awesome starters to really do things. And all those heroes in Commoner do feel drastically different because they don't have access to tools. Like Oldhim doesn't have the shield, doesn't have Crown of Seeds for CC, but has everything else essentially that can be an aggro Oldhim, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Which is great. But then you also like Prism. Prism feels completely different in Blitz and CC because you're able to get its Prism's main weapon, Luminaris.
Yep.
Where if you pitch a yellow, pretty much all your auras have go again, and it's just a game changer, right? So that makes Prism feel completely different. And so Prism does play a lot differently, while it's a little bit more like feels broody in Commoner. It can create some really interesting builds with like the like pitching 3 to attack for 4 go again.
Yeah.
You're able to hit harder with your auras. So you're a bigger hero, and you kind of get the premise of like using Prism's ability, but it does feel a lot different in Blitz and CC. Now, if we take a different hero though, Phi doesn't feel that different.
Like not at all, frankly.
Phi does get subby hammers in Commoners, so Phi can even go off harder than it can in Blitz.
Which happened to me last night, which was just a ton of fun.
So much fun. We locally banned it, just so everyone knows. But with that, Phi rudimentally feels the same against like every single platform. The only thing that makes Phi just a little bit different when it comes to deck building is you then have access to Mask of Momentum in Blitz and CC and Shuko and Tunic and all that stuff. Tunic doesn't really change the way it feels, but Shuko definitely like is able to push an extra damage.
But and Mask of Momentum is just like it's
forcing them to
when
block.
It goes off, it's a game changer, so you have to prevent it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those balance things.
Right.
But ultimately, the basic flow of that deck doesn't change at all.
No.
It's mostly just play 97 cards and do as much damage as humanly possible.
Yeah, that hero doesn't feel different. That hero feels very like the same across every single platform, in my opinion. You may change a little variance. Like I probably don't know. I like running Kadachi in CC. I think I prefer sharing Emberblade in Blitz because it just feels a little bit different in that aspect. So that hero like does that. So again, going back to the question, yes and no. Every hero is just a little bit different, but Commoner does make your hero feel a certain way. With KO, I think you picked an awesome hero that honestly doesn't feel that different, except you're able to pop off more with Scabskin Leathers and have Gambler's Glove to roll some more.
Provided the RNG goes your way.
Yep. And you're able to get KO Specialization, which is fantastic for KO, where you get to roll 2 dice.
It's like absolutely necessary for the deck.
Yeah. I really like it. If you want a recommendation on deck tech for KO, I really do like DM Armada's KO with the Crazy Brews. It's a lot of fun. But also like you may just want to just do 6s the whole time and go like that. But KO pretty much does feel the same, and you just get access to a few extra like brute cards too, like the defense reaction that does 2 damage, which is great for ending games. So KO does feel feels exactly the same, just slightly different because you have access to more cards. But it doesn't really change much for that hero.
And then honestly, like when you're in this sort of position, when you're kind of not quite sure who you should end up building out the deck for, Commoner is really phenomenal for testing different things out and like just learning your basics. So if you're in a situation, and we've talked about this before, but it's one of those evergreen topics that really needs to be brought up every couple of episodes, I think, just to make sure that we're still reiterating the things that are most important about this game. If you are questioning stuff, if you're not sure if this is the right hero for you, try another one. If you really loved KO, try some of the other big hit ones. Try Bravo. Try Rhinar. See if Brute or, doing a lot of damage is sort of what you're doing. Or if you like, more of that sort of RNG kind of play. Maybe you want to go with something else, like a Katsu, which is a little more RNG dependent.
Yeah.
So just, play around with a couple of things, see what sounds good for you, and then go for it.
Yeah.
Don't be shy. Pull that cord. When you think you have it, give it a shot.
KO is a lot of fun, and it was my first like actual Blitz deck I was able to make with all the proper cards and everything. So I really like that route of KO, and it does transfer really, really well into other brutes too. You just don't get to have that as big as hits, but you get to have different cards to be able to push things like that. So for CC, like Rhinar can be a great option. For me, I was like Levia will be a better brute for me because I just enjoy the shadow aesthetic and think that would be really, really cool. And I don't know, chance, like KO has the chance aspect, Levia has the chance aspect. You may have a chance of dying from blood debt. You know, like there's a lot of chance there. So like you're able to kind of feel that, and pretty much like all the brutes, that class feels very, very similar. They feel pretty much the same. Ninja, they broadly feel the same. Fi might be the most different one because it has access to draconic cards.
But even then, the ultimate thrust of the deck for the most part is basically the same.
Attack a lot.
Yeah.
Have card effects that make you do other things. Illusionist, they both feel vastly different in my opinion.
Hugely, because Prism is really geared around more of a defensive sort of thing with auras, the big attack cards. Yeah. Whereas Drum Ice is like, here's my 47 allies. Good luck.
So you really do have to find what you do. I think every hero, like I think the newest heroes feel similar across all gameplay abilities. They just have a little extra bonuses. Like Dramai, you're still able to build dragons in Commoner. And you're still able to do that and do it really well. And
Dramai legitimately is phenomenal in Commoner.
It's really good. And the cool thing is you get to run more Centipies and just like knock people down because you don't have access to every dragon because there's no bigger dragon in Commoner. So you still get to make the cards and do all that stuff, but you actually get access to like bigger hitting things, and so you feel more like Guardian-esque. But once you hit Blitz and CC, you're making dragons.
It's all dragons.
You're making dragons.
Doesn't matter if you're attacking with cards really at that point because all you want to do is invoke.
Yeah, you want to just invoke like crazy and defend like crazy, and it's very interesting. I like that. That's my personal take on it. There's other takes on it too. Blitz, I honestly feel is going to feel very similar to Commoner, where you're going to have maybe one or two more dragons, but nothing crazy. You're going to probably be focusing on just hitting hard and making those Aether Ashwings.
You're not dropping Dominia in a Blitz match, probably.
No, like I wouldn't recommend bringing Dominia in a Blitz match. But again, if you play Dramai and play Dramai and Blitz, get in the comments. Let us know if I'm wrong there. But like that's a very interesting hero because it does feel vastly different in CC because it's just like, I'm evoking and I'm causing you mischief over here and I'm adding health essentially by creating this creature. And are you going to take care of it? Because if you don't, I'm going to be able to attack you next time and create another creature, and then you just have more creatures to deal with. So what would you like to do?
Exactly.
You make a choice. And that's what makes Dramai even like cooler in CC, and that I would say that hero feels a lot different. Same with the illusionists feel a lot different. It's kind of what it is. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, that's, I don't know. Did we answer that question?
I think so. Ben, you're going to have to let us know what you thought of that. And if you too would like your notes, your questions featured on an episode of the illustrious, award-winning Bottom Tier Podcast, please go ahead and write into us. Drop a DM in our Twitter. Send us a message on Reddit. We're on Twitter at Bottom Tier Pod. We're on Reddit Bottom Tier Pod. We also have a YouTube channel. Bottom Tier Pod.
Yes.
So check us out. Leave us a message. We are more than happy to engage with basically any question.
Any question. And just to finish off, like the last part of the question, I'm not sure if we did answer, but like I don't know who I should upgrade. I'm currently thinking KO, but I'm not sure if that is because I click with brutes. Upgrade KO to Blitz. I think that's awesome.
Do it.
And if you're like, man, I'm digging brutes, try a commoner deck with Rhinar or
Levia and just see what works for you.
Because the thing is like getting legendary equipment can be expensive. So your big 100%. Purchase is going to be Scab Skins and probably a Crown of Providence and or Arcanite Skull Cap. And then you're going to pretty much have the same equipment you have with you'll have your Barkskin or Scab Skin, not Scab Skins, the Barkskin, the armor. Yeah. And so you'll probably have that. If you go Leviathan route, you'll get that. So like once you make that purchase, you're able to do all brutes. And so I would try out those other ones to see if you like them in CC.
And really don't dump a bunch of money into it right off the top. Just buy one or two like staple pieces that you could like exactly like you were saying that you can leverage into other heroes as well if you want to explore a little bit. And then once you know, like, yes, I love KO. KO is who I want to play in Blitz. I love rolling the dice. I love the chance of the big Okos. Like, let's go. Then you can start putting a little bit more money into it, getting those specific pieces that are more geared towards KO, like your Gambler's Gloves or something like that.
Yeah.
And going from there.
And you don't need Gambler's Gloves either. Like, you could probably pick up with Skull Crushers for fairly cheap right now. I think Gambler's Gloves is just a little bit more expensive. So Skull Crushers is also great for KO because if you roll 5 or 6, you're adding +1 damage.
Yep.
Amazing. So you can find some really good Steeple cards for Brute in that way. And so I recommend going for the hero that you're vibing with to go into that Blitz format. It's interesting because like the more I play, coming from being newer for the past few months, the more I play, the more I just fall in love with almost every hero.
Pretty much all of them have something to recommend. Like, even if it's not necessarily your normal play style, if you actually give them a try, you can start to see like, oh yeah, okay, this I'm feeling a little bit. This is actually pretty fun. I see why people like to play this, even if it's not your particular thing. Yeah.
Like right now, I'm really enjoying Dromai on CC. But I honestly, sitting here, like thinking about like, should I make Dromai for Blitz? I don't really want to.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different feel. Like, I don't know if I want to make Dromai for Blitz. However, like, Fi for Blitz is great. Like, I'll play Fi and I'll play Fi and Blitz. Like, I also have KO made, so like I could be biased. I love KO for Blitz. I think it's a lot of fun. I also tried doing an aggro Bolton, which I'm sorry, Bolton.
Flamed out spectacularly.
Yeah, sorry, Bolton. I'm not a fan anymore.
Why is that one card only swords?
I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
Courage of Blade Hold. But, you know, hey, so you follow your heart, build that KO deck.
Follow your heart. That is the bottom tier top tip. Guys,
follow your heart.
Follow your heart.
Yeah, let's go play Digimon. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Okay. All right. Well,
guys,
with that, everybody, we both tried to do exactly the same thing at the same time.
Thank
we
you
are
so
like
much.
simpatico here.
Wait, one more. Here, let's try one more.
Guys,
thank you. We're the bottom tier.
Enough of that. Guys, seriously, thank you all so much for being here with us. We're so sorry we got a little off track there at the very, very, very end. Special shout out to Ben from Pittsburgh. Thank you for contributing to today's episode. We really appreciate you and everybody else who's out there listening and engaging with us, checking out the content, just having a good time with this hobby. For the bottom tier, I'm Greg.
And I'm Matt.
And guys, we'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your day.
Toodles.